Welcome back to WorldBox World Domination. As you can see, we are back here on the planet Hoth, the frozen planet in Star Wars. Now, of course, Hoth itself does not hold any native civilization that can be seen on the surface. That is why we have to settle with whatever these kingdoms built on the map. Now, there's a little bit of a problem. Back then, I decided to put down two modern kingdoms, the Hordes and Miedo Mayon lands. And it would be a waste if I, were to not use this map before the new mod dropped, because then I don't think these mods are going to be able to essentially operate with the new system. In any case, though, we are, well, of course, I have to explain the rule set of WorldBox World Domination first, aren't I? Here's a quick rundown. I set down the civilization, the kingdoms. They develop to the maximum size possible until no single, style is left uncolonized. The culture is allowed to be, they are allowed to develop to the maximum level of their respective race. And with the switch diplomacy random events on, the kingdom will start to declare war. In the end, there should be only one kingdom surviving. That would be, the winner, the world dominator. Alright, that is the, quick rundown of the rule set. Now we just need to, wait until the kingdom declare war. And to speed that up, I will activate Sonic Speed. A little bit quick update on the, WorldBox kind of, I don't know, development update. The dev, they dropped a new, reveal, a new pick into the upcoming updates with the what's that called again? Plot and plan reveal. Basically, we gotta have a look into the inner working of the diplomacy. Kingdom can craft, well, I say craft, but more like, they decide to either ally with each other, form an alliance, or rebel if, rebellion is set to be on, or declare war, sign peace treaty, stuff like that. Very exciting. And I think the update is very near. Anyway, it seems that the game has started. Miedo Mayon land is currently under attack from the Hordes. Two modern races are destroying each other. Here we can see the lizard people. Pretty cool looking. Unfortunately, they don't exactly work too well. I think, if you were to compare each race, I think the modded race will probably fall behind on most category. So, the goblin, for example, does have the deceitful trait as a, basic. You can see it, well, that's a dwarf man. You can see it on most of the goblin population. For example, this guy also have deceitful. And for the lizard people who are currently under severe destruction, we can probably tell that they are not doing good. So I think they do have regeneration, but I don't know if it's just everyone have regeneration or not. Here, let me check this guy. Yes, he does have regeneration, but it's not as effective as the orcs, let's say, since the kingdom really doesn't work as intended. I think they have a problem with the tax, or building more civilian infrastructure, basically, right? Housing and stuff like that. I think it's a problem with the mods. They can't seem to like build enough building, so they don't get enough tax, they don't get enough like population, and eventually they just kind of like grind to a halt, basically. They fall behind and they starve. Oh my god, look at this. These are all dwarfs. I've not seen that many dwarfs before. Most of the time the dwarf kingdom usually doesn't survive long enough to see this many soldiers. Seems that the dwarf have gone to war against the I believe these are the goblins. But I think they aren't exactly fighting against the goblin. They're fighting against the elves. Interesting. The battle is happening on goblin land though, and has caused some destruction over the area. Oh, I see. So the dwarf are attacking the goblin after all. They just happened to come across a few elves who are patrolling the region and decided that, hey, we are against the elf as well. Well, the modded race have basically been eradicated, as expected. There are a few survivors left, but they aren't really going to be able to rebuild their kingdoms. Or kingdom, because the lizard people have already been eradicated. On the other hand, it seems that one of the main race, the human, are facing against an extremely dangerous situation here. The Elven Kingdom have made their way into the southwestern corner, which is where the human capital lies. Most of the human settlement outside of this location, which is surrounded by mountain, has already been destroyed. If the human cannot hold this tiny cave entrance, they are going to be eliminated. Once again, we have to pay attention to the orcs. Should the orc be able to gain an advantage over any of the other race, they will try and take it. Basically, the orcs have an advantage in terms of the innate trait, and they are very aggressive. You could say that the orcs are overpowered with their regeneration and savagery. Most orcs are also very strong, so it's not unlikely that the orc are going to be able to overpower kingdoms one by one and practically win the game before they get stopped by anyone. Green, a Fiona and Rocky Tower should probably resolve their differences and ally against the orcs, but with the current AI level of pre-update level, I don't think These guys are gonna mine that pretty much. The only one... Oh, okay, they are against the orc, but they aren't exactly aligning with each other. They're also fighting each other. Which means the resources pouring into fighting the orc is, you know, a little bit low. So it is most likely that the orc will take over this village, or, you know, completely destroy it. I mean, look at this, huh? These guys have pretty much been able to freely develop their area without much trouble. Meanwhile, the human still having to deal with skirmishes from the elves. Alright. Well, let's increase the time flow over here and see what happens. In the northern area, it seems that the dwarves are taking some huge stride toward their goal of destroying the elves. Here's a little bit funny thing about the geography of the Dwarven Kingdom. They are basically also within, you know, built within the mountain here. This shielding mountain basically stopped the elven invasion. But in the southern area, it is an open field, or open snow forest more like, which is not very good when it comes to like defending against the orc. As you can see here, the southernmost village has already been thoroughly destroyed, and the orc are working their way up to the capital. Down this southwestern corner, the elves are still trying to figure out where the human capital are, and I believe they might have just destroyed. Okay, there are still several locations here existing outside of the capital region, but I think the elf would probably try. Are these the elf anymore? I think these are orcs. Ah, I see. So elves are probably preoccupied with something, and now the orc are just kinda replacing them, being the new raiders in the region. I'm not sure why they would even try to destroy the human, since the kingdom aren't exactly close to each other. But you know, the orc savagery probably drive their policy. Well, the human does not stand a chance against the mighty orc this time around. The Obic kingdom will fall. Let's zoom out. We can see that oh, it seems that the Obic managed to sign a peace treaty for, you know, with the orc. 18 people survives, but I don't think they are going to live for long. After all, they are still that's still at war against the elves. It's not all fun and game. Now we can see here that the elven army is trying their best to eliminate the orcish threat. However, when we look at the forces on both sides, they are pretty much equal. But from what we can see in the last episode, the orc, with, you know, even less population than their enemies, they can still deal a quite devastating blow. Or perhaps, you know, be at equal footing to an enemy that double their size. Given enough time, they will try. I mean, they will succeed in, you know, eliminating that enemy. So they are not to be underestimated. And I think the elves have probably realized that. They're trying their best to eliminate the orcish threat over here, but whether or not that is successful it remains to be seen. The Obig miraculously survives, however, despite the initial destruction of their kingdom by the hand of the orc. Of course, rocky towers, dwarven kingdom, still are around. However, most of their settlement down in the south has been thoroughly burnt. Not sure if the orc gonna let the dwarf remain in peace, but I think currently they are dealing with the elves instead. Look at this, huh? Pretty hostile activity over here. You can see that the elven capital is under attack. Orcish troop are seen destroying buildings, fields, anything that moves in general, and anything that don't move that is not tree. The orcish force is, they are focusing, they are, you know, regrouping over in this region and preparing for a new raid. And here they are. Now, a pretty interesting thing about the geographic for the elves is that they have this little frozen river here. Now the elves are born with the trait of weightlessness. And weightlessness allow the elven people to step on the ice without cracking it. Thus they can cross the region. But any other race or creature that doesn't have that trait will to step on this ice. It will break the ice and basically thaw the ice and you know, create like a barrier for this entire area. I'm not sure if that's good or bad for the elf, but that is how it is. Oh no, look at this. The population of the elf has been severely cut down after years of fighting against orcish incursion. And it seems that the humans are back on the menu for the orcs. See, that this time they are determined to drive the human to extinction. Hordes of orc marches into the city, destroying everything that's left. 6 humans surviving, however I don't... oh, 2 surviving, 1 and 0. The human kingdom has been thoroughly destroyed, razed to the ground, and now they are extinct. The dwarf are probably the next on hit list for the orcs. They will probably try to eliminate the weaker kingdoms before they eliminate the elf for good. Here we can see that the dwarves are pretty much helpless against the orcish invasion. Oh, managed to strike a peace treaty. Clever. I'm not sure what they offered, but, you know, it allows the dwarf to survive to fight for the next few hundred years at least. Until then, we're gonna have to wait for the kingdoms to rebuild themselves or expand. Depends on which kingdom you ask. The orc have pretty much expanded to half of the map already, which is not a small feat. I don't think even if the dwarf and the elf were to team up and fight against the orcs, I don't think they are going to be able to defeat the orc at all. Hopefully the next update there will be some balance to the orc. Perhaps lower the total health pool so that the orc will not have too much of an advantage, or they could give the other race a little bit of a buff, perhaps. Something like, you know, the dwarf does have the mining trait, but I don't think it helps much. Perhaps something like allowing the dwarf to be more proficient at crafting better armor. Something like that. That would help. Or maybe just allowing the orc, allowing the dwarf to mine for rare minerals in every terrain. Now, a little bit something that people don't actually pay attention to is the mining system in this game. Basically, when you build a mine on top of a type of biome, it will produce certain kind of metal. For example, if you mine in a jungle biome, it will give you a lot of silver. You mine in the here. Let's say that if you have a mine on a crystal biome, you will get a lot of mithril. You mine on the infernal seed biome, you will get adamantite, I believe. Stuff like that. Now, since the dwarf has the miner trait, I don't actually know if the miner trait allows them to do that, but I don't think so. I don't think I have seen that kind of thing happens. I think the miner trait should be, you know, buffed a little bit so that it would yield like rare mineral on every biome, so that the dwarf will have a little bit of an edge in the fighting. The dwarf currently are pretty weak. The elves, I think the elf also needs somewhat of a buff. They would probably need somewhat of I don't know, maybe increase their range for, you know, arrows. Or maybe the weightlessness can help somewhat with fighting. Who knows? Maybe make them faster, although I don't think that's gonna matter very much. The human, I don't know about the humans. The human, it's a core trait for the human. These are just like my opinion. I think it's just kind of random, basically, right? Well, humans gotta do what the humans gotta do, I guess. Now, from what I can see here, the orc are pretty much double the size of the elves. Despite the huge size that the elves have managed to build themselves up, I think it is still quite the unimaginable scenario to think that the elf can actually fight back against this much orcs. 5,000 of them. Let's look over to the army size. 2,677 versus 1,017. So pretty much a 2-to-1 ratio. Or is it? Or am I like bad at math? Like, yeah, kind of, not really. It would be too much of, you know. It would be way too long if I were to like sit here and examine it in speed times 1 or times 5. As you know, the more object, the more entity are on screen, the slower the game runs. So let's just look over and see the orc basically desecrate the Elven Kingdom from afar. Well, maybe we could entertain ourselves with a little bit. Here, I'll slow it down and I'll zoom it in, alright? Here is an orcish, basically a horde. Because that's what they are. You know, a horde of orcs destroying everything they see. And they're regrouping. Here they are, they're charging into battle. Alright. Encountering elves. Oh, here we go. They're regrouping into a large mass. Like a wave of orcs. Oh, here we go. In the city now. So we're attacking with, you know, with their might against anything that isn't them. Buildings, people, doesn't matter except for trees. I guess trees aren't exactly a priority target unless if you're like a lumberjack. But then again, most of the elven buildings have trees in them, so you could count that as fighting against tree as well. And that's pretty much how the orc operates. Fairly interesting. Let's see how the orc deal with the dilemma of you know, crossing this area, this river. They probably won't. They'll just, like, you know, go from this way. See? Avoiding the river entirely. Perhaps the elf could have defended this area better, but I don't think they're gonna be able to withstand such large, I don't know, army. My, look at this, huh? These orcish troops, they never know where. I mean, you know. Whatever. I'll abandon that line of thought, I guess, because it doesn't really go anywhere. I was gonna say, like, they don't know what it's, they don't know when to stop, but then again, I think they pretty much know when to stop. They'll stop until, like, there's no elven, or, you know, no non-orcs left behind. And by mean that, I mean just destroy everything that is not orcs in nature. Oh boy, look at this, huh? And it's gone. One single city remains. Here we see the king with a bunch of, like, kids. What is this? Like a kindergarten? Oh my god, look at that. It's thought to be, it's like there are so many orcs here, it's thought to behave like a fluid. I think the comparison between, you know, these and a wave is pretty much accurate. It's much like a wave. It's much like a tsunami of unstoppable savagery. I don't know if, you know, anyone is, like, keeping track of the score for this series, because I certainly am not. But one more win for the orcs, it seems. Well, that's gonna be it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you do, leave a like if you want to see more. And of course, if you're waiting for the new update just like me, I think you would probably want to see more WorldBox when that happens. Subscribe to the channel, and yeah, I will be seeing you in the next video. Goodbye.